Welcome to APCUG's Wednesday workshops, where we get together in the middle of the week to learn more about technology. If you are new to us or coming in late, we need to remind you to make sure that the name that we see on our tic-tac-toe board is the same name that you registered so that we can match up your registered name with your Zoom name and your email to get follow-up material. We always end up with people not getting follow-up. Today, as you can see from the background, we're going to be doing some talk about YouTube. John Krout is back with us, and he's kind of almost like a regular. We can put him on our APCUG's Zoom team, but it's always good to have the other John K with us. He's a retired software engineer who helped create requirements, designs, developments, and improving computer systems for federal government agencies in the Washington, D.C. area region for over 3 decades. He's a member of PAD-ACES, the Potomac Area Technology and Computer Society. He's a member there where he gives many presentations, writes articles for their newsletters, and he writes for APCUG's push articles that are sent out to our editors of our groups. He's been writing about creative uses of personal computers since the early 1980s. Now, John also writes about smartphones, tablets, digital cameras, and pretty much anything that has to do with technology. Today, he's going to help us learn how to download 4K videos from YouTube. So, John, it's your turn.
Well, thank you for that introduction. Not just YouTube this time, folks, but also Netflix and Amazon Prime Video.
Ooh, 3 for 1.
3 for 1. Now, one thing that happens when you're the last speaker on an event like this is that sometimes you twiddle your thumbs and then realize, oh, I can look at all the participants. So I looked at all the participants. Now, I'm not sure if this person is still on, but remember what we said about we need to see your full first and last name. I know there is no person in this universe named iPod. So that person needs to check and correct their name if they're still on. Secondly, no person in this event will really appreciate the close-ups we see of nostrils. And that happens whenever anybody has their phone or their tablet on the desk and they're watching this event. So I want to recommend something. This thing costs a whopping $6 at Staples. It's a tripod with a clamp to hold your phone. And that makes it super interesting for the rest of us because we no longer get distracted by those enlarged nostrils. And one other thing I want to mention about the first presentation, I went to a very large high school here in Arlington, Virginia. And one of my high school classmates wrote me a couple of years ago and mentioned that his older sister had found a person with my name on Ancestry.com as somebody who married a woman with his name in the town of York, Pennsylvania in 1810. And it turns out that husband and wife are my direct ancestors. And so we found out after knowing each other for, 50 years, that we're cousins. And I thought that was pretty cool. Now, Judy asked about the photograph behind me. There's a picture I shot 12 or 13 years ago in my front yard of a bee. And guess what? Those little white dots on that bee, that's pollen. So that's an example of a close-up photograph. Now, let's get on to what we really want to talk about. I'm going to take a moment and get the slideshow started here. And then I'll take a moment to make sure that you guys can see these slides without any interruptions or blockages. Okay, slideshow started. Now I'm going to go back to Zoom and we will get it shared. the first thing you're going to see is a black screen. Do not panic. This is not a failure on your part or mine for that matter. Okay, so now I've started the screen sharing. I'm going to make sure that everything that can block that is turned off, and that includes the floating meeting controls. There we go. And the next thing I'll do is actually show you a real slide. Here we are. As is so true in so many of my presentations, this one includes QR codes. And the advantage of QR codes is simply that when I'm showing you a URL or something else that's available through the internet, we can communicate that data accurately and quickly to you through QR codes, quicker than you can type the information yourself. And additionally, you won't create any typos because your phone, your tablet can scan the QR code. Actually, there's even software for Windows and Macintosh that will do that. And the longer the URL, the greater the advantage of QR code scanning over typing. So here's an example of a QR code. You'll recognize them because they have 3 squares in 3 of the corners, like the one you see here. There's a square at the top, and top left, the top right, and the bottom left. Okay, now suppose you've never scanned a QR code with your phone previously and you want to learn how. Turns out one of the previous presentations on one of these APCUG events was on that exact topic, and here's the URL for that topic. Now, having said that, the education on using the phone, setting it up and make sure it works, starts at time point 20 minutes in that presentation and ends at time point 32 minutes and 28 seconds. Half of that is on Android, half of it is on Apple, which means you only have to spend about 6 minutes of your time to learn this very useful skill by watching that video. But since I'm teaching a different topic today and showing you QR codes, it may be convenient for you to actually save the image of the QR code slide on your computer. I call this technique save now, scan later. And the idea is that you can watch any presentation and save any slide. And here's how you do it. It creates, we're going to teach you a keystroke combination that will create a screen image file on your computer. And you'll have to know where that file is saved. It takes roughly 1 second using this technique to save a screen image. And after the presentation, at your leisure, at your convenience, you can display the screen image file and then scan the QR code. So you can scan it a month from now if you want, after you've learned how to scan QR codes. Now, the technique is summarized at the bottom of this screen, and you're going to also see this same reminder at the bottom of every screen that has a QR code in my presentation. For Windows, it's 2 keys. You hold down the Windows key and tap Print Screen, and that will save the image on your computer screen to a subfolder of pictures called screenshots. Now on the Mac, it's 3 keys. You hold down Command and Shift and tap the number 3. And that will save the current screen to the desktop folder on your Macintosh computer. Now, because of that, I'm going to give you a first chance to use what you've just learned. Here is that YouTube video URL, and you can save that on your computer using Save Now, Scan Later. Again, I've got the summary at the bottom of the screen, so I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Okay, so now that shouldn't have happened. Let's see here. I end up opening a browser. I'm not sure. I must have clicked the URL. Let's try clicking in. Yes, getting to our title slide. There we are. Downloading videos from the internet. Now, this was originally titled 4K videos, and that's when I first presented it for my user group, Pat Aces. We are going to look at how to download videos, and it will work with 4K videos, First, we're going to define what that means in case you're not familiar. But let's talk about why you should be interested in this subject. Internet access is not fully available everywhere. Now, if you travel for your vacations, you may already be aware of this. National parks, many mountainous areas have few or no cell towers. In Yellowstone National Park, at least, that's intentional. And many rural cell towers outside of the parks have only very low bandwidth available. Planes and ships have minimal bandwidth available. Even the paid service on Delta Airlines, I found it almost useless because of the low bandwidth. Sole cell tower can be overloaded by a local crowd of 300 or more cell phone users. I found that to happen at rocket launches on Virginia's eastern shore at Wallops Island. So the bottom line, if you plan to travel and you enjoy streaming videos, your best practice is to download the videos to your devices before you go. And that way, it won't matter that you are not in contact with cell towers that can give you internet service. You can watch them anywhere. You can watch them on the plane. You can watch them on the ships. You can watch them in your car, or rather your passengers can. Let's take a look at how we can make that happen. Here's our agenda. We'll talk about what 4K is. We'll talk about the generic process for downloading videos from websites such as YouTube and user group websites that provide videos of their local presentations. Free computer software for downloading videos. Once we get through that, we're going to talk about the Netflix computer application and the Netflix portable device app. Both of those enable you to download Netflix TV shows and movies for later viewing. And I found that especially valuable for Netflix productions that have not yet become available on, say, a DVD or a Blu-ray disc. In addition, it turns out the Amazon Prime Video computer app and the portable device app will do exactly the same thing. It will allow you to download those movies or television episodes that you want to watch while you're on vacation. Now, what is 4K? 4K is an example of a video resolution standard. Most of us first watched TV in the era of analog video, and we know what happened when the US adopted the high definition video standard. Video resolution improved tremendously. And why is it important to us? Well, it's because when things are higher definition, our eyes are naturally attracted to that detail. Standard definition, which was adopted initially in the US almost 20 years, I think actually now it's more than 20 years ago, transmitted by broadcast TV stations, is 1920 pixels horizontal by 1080 pixels vertical. You multiply those two numbers together and you find out that's 2.1 megapixels per frame, and they transmit 30 frames per second. It's a lot of data. As we all found out, more resolution is better. Now, 4K. 4K is shorthand for video that doubles both numbers, both the horizontal and vertical pixels. And here it is, 3840 by 2160. It's about 8.3 megapixels per frame. Many recent smartphones and tablets have the capability to record, to shoot video at that resolution. And some older devices can add an app that will accomplish the same thing for you. 4K HD TVs now sell for as little as $200. 4K Blu-ray players cost as little as $99, and 4K Blu-ray discs are rentable at Redbox. As it turns out, also the Roku devices that are competitors for Apple TV can display 4K video from Amazon Prime Television and from Netflix. on a 4K TV. Many titles on YouTube, Netflix, and Amazon Prime Video are 4K resolution. And I mentioned it here, Roku streaming devices can stream 4K. And yes, somebody has found a way to up the game once again. 8K video resolution, 7680 by 4320, 33 megapixels per frame. Well, guess what? A few smartphones and tablets can shoot video at 8K resolution, the recent ones. But 8K disc players and 8K HD TVs cost a small fortune. So until those prices come down, I don't think 8K is going to be very popular. Also, as you can guess, it takes a tremendous amount of bandwidth to receive that through a streaming service such as Netflix, and they don't offer 8K videos yet. Okay, now we're going to talk about what you can do to download a YouTube video or video from your user group website or other generic sources like that. First of all, there's a couple of common things. I'm going to show you one which I have found very useful, one application that is available for Windows and Linux and Apple. One of the things it allows you to do is reduce the video file size by reducing the resolution. Now, for instance, if you have a phone or tablet with relatively modest video resolution on the screen, you may want to reduce the resolution of the video so that you'll be able to see the whole thing on your TV or your computer or your portable device. And that will also, of course, reduce the video file size. So you can save several of them instead of just one or two. You cannot change the video resolution up, but most 4K television sets are perfectly capable of displaying lower resolution videos that you happen to have on your portable device or your computer simply by connecting them through an HDMI cable or using any sort of wireless capability. You can copy the downloaded video file from places like YouTube or other generic sites to another computer or portable device. So you can have several copies. The software works for videos on YouTube, user group websites, other sites with, the only qualification is there must be no digital rights protection on the videos that you download. But that's always true on YouTube and as far as I could tell, and certainly true on user group websites. Okay, let's look at the software. This is the one I've been using. Its name is 4K Video Downloader. You're looking at its icon on my computer screen. It's published by a company called Open Media. It allows a massive number, 30 downloads per day at no cost, meaning you don't have to pay the publisher of the downloader application. Now, they do not charge a subscription fee. They offer a perpetual license for $15, and that's needed only if you download more than 30 per day, and I've never hit that limit. You can download the software from this URL, and as you can guess, I'm about to show you a QR code. You scan that, and it will download. It will let you go to that URL from on your tablet or your phone, or if you have computer scanning capability on your computer, which is really where it does the most good. And there's the reminders how to scan now and save later on the bottom of the screen. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to do that. Okay. Now I circled something. I enlarged the icon here and circled something in case it wasn't recognizable. Notice the number 8 that appears in this particular software icon. The app will also download 8K resolution videos if you find any of those on YouTube, despite the name 4K video downloader. I haven't found any yet to try it, but there you go. It's a pretty versatile application. Now, let's look at how we get it. Here is the software website, the URL that I just provided you. And you will notice that when you click the tab on the left for the 4K video downloader, it displays several different choices for how to download things. And yes, where I've circled, there's one choice for Microsoft, there's one choice for Mac OS, and there's one choice for Ubuntu, which is a popular version of Linux. To the right of each of those, there is a download button. I've circled the one for Windows here. But I want to show you something else. The next slide is going to show you a very much enlarged version of the large circle on the left. Notice here, I've circled two of them, the version for Ubuntu and the version for Windows. They both have a down arrow to the right of those words. And it's very important for you, if you use either of those, to tap that down arrow, because you're going to see different versions available. And those versions will be visible for Windows on the next slide. And there they are. I've clicked that down arrow, and you can see there's not only Windows 64-bit, but there's Windows 32-bit versions. So the ones that are labeled portable, you can put those on flash drives and then use them on any computer by running the software on the flash drive. And once you select the one you need, you click the blue download button on the right for that particular version. Same thing's true for Linux. All the Ubuntu Linux, there's only two versions available. There's only one version for Mac OS, and it works on anything later than 10.13. And I believe we're at 16.5. No, sorry, that's my iPhone. That's not Mac OS. Okay, I'll try to make sure I shut my mouth when I'm talking about something that's not covered here. There's the version for Ubuntu. Again, there's only two different versions. One of them is an installer for Ubuntu 64-bit, and one of them is a version that will install on a flash drive for portable use with other Linux computers. Now, here's what the software looks like when you run it on your computer. The basic user interface of the software is one button in the upper left corner. It's labeled Paste Link. And I'm going to show you step by step how to use it. In this particular screen capture of the app, there's also below the paste link, there's one listed video that has already been downloaded. That area below the paste link is where you will see the list of everything that you have downloaded using this application. And below that button, well, as I just said, the downloaded video list appears. Okay, now, suppose you want to see one that you've already downloaded. Right-click on it, and you're going to see a menu pop up like you see here. And in that menu, one of the things you can do is select play, but you can also select show in folder. This is especially useful if you want to copy the video to other devices. So in the case of Windows, when you select show in folder, it will open Windows File Explorer and show you the file and exactly where it's located. In this case, it's a subfolder that the software created under videos, and it's called 4K Video Downloader. Makes it pretty easy to recognize. That's where you will find all your downloaded videos that you obtain using the 4K Video Downloader. Now, once you have found a video file on the internet that you want to download, You select the web page URL, like I've done here. I selected it so you can see it's highlighted in blue. And then right-click on it, a menu appears, and you want to select the word copy. This is the beginning of the downloading process. Copy that URL. Once you do that, that's when you can use the paste link in the 4K video downloader application. I pointed that out before. It's in the upper left corner of the application. And once you tap paste link, it will open a download clip dialog box like you see here, and it'll have video resolution options. Now, the first choice at the top of the options is full resolution for the particular video you chose. So if it's high definition, what we now call standard def, it's going to show 1080p. If it's lower definition than that, it'll show, say, one of the other choices here as the first choice. Now, in addition, at the bottom of that dialog box, there is a browse button that allows you to choose a different place to put the downloadable file if you don't want to put it in the standard place. And one other button is very important at the bottom. As you can guess, it's the button download, which I've circled here for you. Now, once you tap download, it's going to show you at the top of your downloaded files list the new file that you are attempting to download, and it will show you a fuel gauge type display, like I've circled here, to indicate the progress on the download. That download will take an amount of time that depends largely on your download speed provided by your internet service provider. If you really want to speed it up, shut down everything else on your computer while you're downloading the video file. You don't want to run any other applications. That'll slow it down. Okay, now, once you've done that, oh, let's see here. I got to hide the floating meeting controls again. There we go. Once you've done that, double-click the desired video in that list of downloaded videos. Or find the video file on your computer using your Windows File Explorer or whatever equivalent app you use in other operating systems. And you can open it with any media player that you already have on your computer. I happen to use VLC most of the time. It handles all sorts of media. A question was asked earlier about playing 24-bit flat files, and VLC will do that very nicely. You can also copy the video file, as I mentioned, to a tablet or smartphone or a laptop or another computer. You can play the video file. And like I said, VLC, Windows Media Player, there's a number of things that will play MP4 files and even the MKV files that are in common use in Europe. We've emphasized this previously. You can download at most 30 different videos per day. Now that's a lot. I hope you won't have to take more than that with you on vacation. And you can do that for free. Whenever you kill the software and restart it again on a later date, then the ceiling automatically resets. Buying the $15 license fee does eliminate that daily ceiling. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the Netflix application. I misspelled Netflix there on the second line. Sorry about that. And this assumes that you have a Netflix account. You will not be able to do this if you don't already pay a subscription fee to Netflix. I downloaded the free Netflix application for Windows using the Microsoft Store. And here's the icon that appears on my computer for that application. Should be pretty familiar if you are already a Netflix subscriber. The application lets you browse and play Netflix content. You do have to log in once using your Netflix ID and password. Once you do that, the application lets you browse Netflix content and download many, but not all, of the TV shows and movies. I do not know what criteria they use for preventing a download, but I do know that everything I've tried to download so far has worked. And in particular, there are some titles available on Netflix that are not yet released on disc, particularly Netflix productions such as The Adam Project, and this will let you download them. What it doesn't let you do is share them among other devices. So if you want to download them on other devices, you have to install the Netflix application on those other devices. Here's what it looks like when you start it up. After logging in, it will display a preview of one title, in this case, this concert event called Stadium Fluffy. And it will provide a long scrollable list of tiles, like I've pointed to here, of other titles. It also, in the upper right corner, has a search button. So if you can't find what you want to find by browsing the other titles, you can actually type in a title and then find it that way. That's often more convenient. The tiles list is scrollable. Now, let's say you want to see some episodes of a TV show. Here's it. You click on the tile, and the TV show tile will open a details window that lists its episodes. Now, notice in the list of tiles, there is a download button for each one. And by clicking that download or tapping that download, if you're using a phone or a tablet, you can download that one episode, and a progress meter will appear to that gives you an idea of how long it's going to take. After downloading finishes, then the episode can be watched using the Netflix application on that device. You want to see a list of what you have downloaded? In the upper left corner of the Netflix app, click the 3-line hamburger menu button, which I circled here so you can recognize it. A menu pops up in the upper in the upper left of the Netflix application window, and in that menu there is a link called My Downloads. Select that, and you will see a list here. You'll see a list of 3 of the downloads that I have put on my computer. One of them is the Adam Project. Another one is an episode of the Junior Baking Show. Third one is a documentary of the Creedence Clearwater Revival Band performing at the Royal Albert Hall in England. You can click any tile in your downloads list to see details of that particular title and a play button. If you want to go back to the home screen and download something else, you just tap the left arrow that I circled in the upper left corner. If you want to delete one of these and make room for something else, you click on the word Manage, which is not shown. That will appear in the upper right corner of the window. And that does include an option to delete one of your titles. Now, the Netflix app for Android is almost identical, very similar. Initially, when you first use it, you have to provide your Netflix ID and password. It will show you tiles of titles, and you can click any one of those to, you can click the download button to put it on your device. When you do click, if you want to see details, you click the tile in the middle of the tile, and it will show you the details screen. The downloads button appears at the bottom of that screen. So the app allows you to set and change a ceiling on the amount of device storage. In other words, the storage in your phone or your tablet used by the app. And it may also be important on a laptop or a computer. It turns out in the Netflix app for Android, you can download an entire season of a TV show with one tap. That's a lot more convenient than downloading one episode at a time. And yes, you can see in My Downloads a list of things that you have downloaded, and you can tap a tile there to watch that title. Amazon Prime. I'm not going to show you details on Amazon Prime. What struck me when I reviewed the Prime Video application for Windows, which is also available through the Microsoft Store, was how much it resembled the Netflix application. It's also available on the Android Play Store and the Apple App Store. It is called Amazon Prime Video when you search for it, but when it's installed on your device, it is called Prime Video. As you might guess, you have to log in using your Amazon Prime ID and password in order to use it. Do that when you first run the application. And in most respects, the behavior for downloading titles and watching them is very, very similar to that of the Netflix app. I'm going to give you one more chance to save now and scan later. Here is the 4K video downloader. And this QR code will take you, when you scan it, will take you directly to that URL. The Netflix software for computers, here's a QR code that will take you to the Macintosh version. Here's a QR code that will take you to the Windows version. You scan the one that is appropriate for your computer. And as I said earlier, you must already have a Netflix subscription and account to use this software for downloading videos. Now, the Netflix app for phones and tablets. On the left is the QR code that you can scan with your iPhone or your iPad, and it will directly open the App Store page for Netflix, which is a very convenient way to get there in a hurry. On the right is a QR code for Android tablets and phones. If you scan that with such a device, it'll take you to the Play Store page for the Netflix app. So I'll give you a couple of seconds for saving this page for later scanning. Okay, the Prime Video app from Amazon. That's its icon. If you scan the QR code on the left, it will, with your Macintosh, it will open it directly to the page from which you can download Prime Video app for your Mac. On the right is the same thing for Windows. And for phones and tablets, on the left side, the QR code will open your App Store to the page on which you can download Prime Video. On the right, for Android phones and tablets, is a QR code. If you scan that with such a device, then it will open the Play Store to the page for downloading the Prime Video app on those devices. And that's it. So I've run out of things to say, but if you have questions, I'll be happy to tackle them. And I'm going to stop the share. And there we go.
That was neat. Now I can go start downloading. Like you said, can't imagine downloading more than 30 a day.
Well, I bet somebody, this is still a pretty large audience. I bet somebody can, but I'm going to tell you, when it's free, I will limit myself and wait till midnight and then start over again.
They're in cahoots with drive storage devices, so you have to buy more storage too.
Oh, you think? Well, I will tell you, as having been involved in personal computers since the mid 90s, I guess. Actually, I started with a Commodore 64 when those things came out. One of the things we all know from that kind of experience is the price of storage just continues to plummet.
Oh, yeah.
And you can get a 4 terabyte portable hard drive from Micro Center for less than $60 now. So it's not much of a challenge anymore.
And I can remember spending $250 for a 250 gig drive.
Oh, I spent $270 for an 80 megabyte drive.
Megabyte drives, yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
That was a long time ago, folks.
a question. The cell phone holder that you showed earlier, where did you get it? And
Staples.
And will it hold a tablet?
No. I have not looked for a frame. This frame is big enough for cell phones. I have not looked for a frame for tablets. I bet they exist. Certainly not. This is an impulse purchase at the checkout counter at the Staples, the various Staples that I have visited. It does have a standard style 1/4-inch connector that is the same thing that is used by, if anybody's a photographer, all the other tripods that are available in the US. And this little frame by itself, let me put it in front of my face so you can see it, will connect to other types of tripods as long as they have the same 1/4-inch threaded screw on them. Maybe I ought to look into frames that will hold tablets. That strikes me as a reasonable question. I just haven't looked into it yet.
I had gotten one of those, the Gorilla Grip was the original one, for my son probably over 15 years ago. And
Yep.
They were touted as you can put it around a fence railing to hold your phone steady. You can
Like that. You just curl one of the legs.
You can
Yes.
put it around a tree branch, etc. If you are someone who takes photos all the time, you need to really invest in one of those because they keep.
Yeah. The key is that this little $6 version will not support, how do I phrase it, a heavy camera.
Mhm.
It will support a cell phone on a tree, but this will not grip tight. This one, the $6 version, will not grip tightly enough to support a heavier camera or a
Search for the
camcorder.
word Gorilla.
Yeah.
We have a comment in the chat box that didn't Staples go out of business? No. I have two in my 210,000 soul valley up here, one on the east side and one on the west side. They at one time were going to go into it strictly online. They did close some stores that then went online, but like I say, I'm in this small valley and we have two. Saul, it is your turn.
Not yet.
Will be soon.
Hi. I want to thank John for his excellent presentation, as well as the other presenters today. They were all excellent. but I have a comment on John Krout's presentation. In the early part of your slides, when you were showing shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts for capturing screens on the Mac side, the Mac side was Command-Shift-3, but your last slides showed Command-Shift-5. I know it's been 3 forever. I don't know if it's changed. That's all that's my only comment.
I don't have direct access to a Mac to test these things. And I did research on the web that showed that Command-Shift-5 was the thing. And later a Mac person told me that that brings up a menu and then you have to select screen capture from the menu. So he told me the direct method was Command-Shift-3, and I apologize for typo. I thought I had corrected that everywhere. Obviously I hadn't, but I'll get it fixed this time.
Okay, Ray has a question in the chat box, but I'm going to let him, after Susan is finished, ask his own question. Susan, you are on as soon as John unmutes you.
Oh, I took it for everybody now.
I'm still looking at everybody's muted.
Well, everybody can unmute themselves if they want
Okay.
now.
There you go.
It's a two-step process.
No, it was one. Already did it.
You
Thank
did
you.
step one.
Thank you for this presentation. We're taking some trips and we're curious how we were going to be able to see some shows. I am confused on when you take a picture, like I took pictures with my phone and I did press the windows and the print screen. And so I have the QR code, but I'm wanting to put my husband to put these movies on a separate computer. How do you, if you have a picture of the QR code, how do you get the computer to focus in on that and use that as a way to,
Okay.
as a path to get to?
Yeah, I understand your question. First of all, you know where all the screen capture files are located, and you can move those screen capture files to a separate computer. You can copy them to as many places as you want. Secondly, there is software available. I don't have the details in front of me, but I did teach a separate course on how to scan QR codes with a Windows application or a Mac application. It turns out the applications are pretty smart. They will ask you to identify a screen capture file that you want to scan. And when you click on one of the screen capture files that contains a QR code, like those that you captured today, it will recognize the QR code and crop out everything else so that it will scan that QR code. And I've done that over and over. It is now. I'll tell you what, Judy sends out follow-ups. I will be happy to identify the Windows app and the Mac app in the follow-up to this. And I'll give that information to Judy so she can give it to you. And by the way, they're both free applications.
Okay, and another quick question. On one of the slides, you were to select what you wanted, I think, to record like the movie at, and the first choice was high def. And,
yes, but
the other
keep in mind that's specific to the video that you selected. If your video is at a higher resolution or a lower resolution, the resolution of the video will appear at the top of that list. It's not necessarily, it's 1080p only if it's a standard high def video file, but it could be 4K. It could be, I haven't found any 8Ks yet, but it will download an 8K if you found one. The major purpose of that list is to allow you to download at a lower resolution if you wish to do so.
And that was my question. Which one of those would be good to save space and still make it visible, say, on a standard size laptop or a standard phone?
You have to know something about your laptop or your phone. Many recent phones now will display resolution greater than standard def. Certainly many laptops that have been sold over, say, the past 7 years or so have HD TV standard def resolution screens. And frankly, for my computer, my Windows computer here that has a 4K video resolution output, I can buy a 4K monitor and plug that in. Now, I haven't done that. It's a little more expensive a little more money than I want to spend right now. But the point is, you have to know something about the device in order to choose an appropriate resolution for the device.
Good enough.
Hey,
Yes, thank you. Tell them thank you so you can get off.
Thank you.
Good day, John. Very nice presentation. Really appreciated all your input and advice. I've been a user of the 4K video downloader for several years now. I'm an avid looker at music videos on YouTube, and then I download them to a Plex server. And so I always have access to that regardless of whether I have internet connectivity or not. And I'm still a collector. Many people have converted to being music listeners, but I'm still a music collector. But my question for you is, the download that you're talking about from Netflix and Prime, that's not actually a download to your computer, right? That goes to the vendor's files, so you're able to watch those movies offline.
Good question. I have not tested this. I made sure I knew how to download so I could explain it to other people. But the acid test would be to disconnect my computer from the internet, start the Netflix app, and see whether or not it can play one of the things that I have allegedly downloaded. So that would answer your question. I have not done that test.
Okay, yeah, and I haven't either, so that's why I'm actually posing it as a question. I'm not sure of the answer, but what I have read about these services, particularly the ones for movies, because they don't want everybody just downloading movies and having easy access to them. So they allow you to download it. So if for maybe 30 days, but it's on a server that they control. So if you don't have internet connectivity, you can still watch the movie for that period, and then it disappears.
All right, I will say this. I should have tested this when I last went on vacation to a place where I didn't have internet access. But the one thing that's different about using Netflix or the Prime Video applications is that they don't tell you where they store stuff. And if it is stored on my computer system, which I think it is, and they certainly led me to believe it would be, then I have not been able to figure it out. I haven't figured out where they store it. They are doing their damnedest to make sure that you can't copy this to other devices. And that's really the bottom line for digital rights protection. They want to make sure that you don't hand it out. You don't put it on a Plex server that's accessible by thousands of other people. That's the bottom line for both of those organizations, and that's what's meant by digital rights management. Now, we know from other experiences that some digital rights management, particularly for music, allows you to download things, iTunes being a perfect example. You download things to iTunes. Steve Jobs went on record and he said it was a terrible thing to implement that digital rights management. He wished he didn't have to, but they were making sure that you couldn't copy it to every other person on the planet.
Right.
And there's a reason for that. And frankly, I've been a music collector since I was in high school, and I have a great respect for the people who can write music and arrange it in a form that frankly attracts us to get copies. I don't want to reduce their incentives. I had an interesting experience. There was a music festival that happened annually in the Bethlehem, Pennsylvania area for about 12 years. And I went to see one of my favorite 70s bands that had been reconstituted. It's a band called Renaissance that performed there. And then I took a CD I had of greatest hits and asked them to autograph it. And the lead singer looked at it and said, "This isn't an authorized copy." And she initially refused to sign it. but I didn't walk away, and eventually she did. But the point is, the artists are sensitive to that, not just the owners of the music, but the artists themselves. So keep that in mind if you are dead set on liberating the digital form of music or videos. That you're radically reducing the incentives of these artists to actually keep doing the creative stuff that they do.
I couldn't agree with you more, John. Very well said. I, as one that has over 2,000 store-bought CDs in my collection, I certainly have been supporting all of my adult life.
I've got my cabinet of CDs sitting here next to the computer desk. I can't claim that many. It's probably up around 600 now. But I am just so thrilled that you can still obtain these things in a form that will withstand changes in music formats and changes in technology. And I will comment also that for some artists, particularly those from the Atlantic label in the 1970s, you can now get 24-bit uncompressed files. It's usually on a Blu-ray or a DVD as opposed to an audio CD. But it makes a tremendous difference. The sound quality is astounding. Then you've got my friends in Richmond, Virginia, who ended up spending another $5,000 on a 5-channel speaker system. And I just had to draw the line. I couldn't do that. Because in addition to the 24-bit stereo files, there's 24-bit 5-channel versions on the same DVD or Blu-ray. Lots of fun, but lots of money.
Kurt, you're on.
Thank you, John, for a good presentation. Couple of ideas came up, and a week or so ago, my wife and I went on a little trip, and instead of packing up videos to watch with me, I grabbed a Roku stick that we use and just took that with me. You can usually take, if you're staying somewhere, you can usually get access to the back of the TV.
Yeah, that's true, but it also requires something else, and that's internet connectivity. And you remember at the beginning of the presentation, I talked about all the places I've gone to where there hasn't been internet connectivity.
Yep.
Or the bandwidth is very low.
Not saying that what you talked about does not have value, okay? But here's an alternative. When we took this trip a week or so ago, and I got to the hotel and I went to set that up, I discovered two things. Number one, the place that we were staying had Roku devices on every room, okay? And you could sign into those as a guest and use it that way. I chose not to do that. Something else I discovered, though, when I got down there and went to hook up my Roku devices, I forgot the remote, which makes it sort of useless. But what I ended up using was the Windows Connect to a wireless monitor function to connect my computer to the TV in the room or actually to the Roku device, and that worked very, very well. And it's depending upon where you're going, it won't be any good at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, but it's an alternative to loading up a whole bunch of files ahead of time. And some of the things that we were most interested in was YouTube videos that become available on a daily basis. Okay. One final comment. For all of you that have to take and change your name when you when you come to a meeting like this, or that have a device like iPad, okay, there is no such person. I agree with John. A long time ago, I wrote a little tutorial, if you will. I was going to create a video, but it turned out so simple that writing instructions was sufficient, about taking and if you do not have a Zoom account, setting your name in Zoom so that it's always there. And that, Judy, can I put the link in chat?
I will.
Say again?
I said I will do that as we speak.
Oh, well, okay.
Or you can do it.
Okay, I can do it.
I don't have to look for it.
Let me comment one thing that Kurt reminded me of, and that is if you forget your remote, there are good, reliable Roku apps that will function as your remote. You can put that on your phone or your tablet. So that's one way to deal with the problem that Kurt ran into. He mentioned another way. On top of that, let me just comment about the case I ran into. I went to Yellowstone National Park a few years ago in the first week of September, started on Labor Day weekend. Well, guess what? There were a ton of people in the park that weekend. What do I mean by a ton? Oh, let's say when Old Faithful, I was staying in the Old Faithful village, and when Old Faithful was expected to erupt, there were at least 2,500 people on the boardwalk around that. And guess what? Every one of them had a cell phone. And guess what that does to the one cell tower that serves that village? Well, the bandwidth goes to hell. And the only way I could download anything was to get up at 5 a.m. or to work on it after 9 p.m. when everybody else was asleep. And because I'm a night owl, that was the choice I made. And just by the way, I learned something else at Yellowstone. The skies are magnificent. When there are no clouds at night, you can see more of the Milky Way than I've seen anywhere else in the United States.
Except when the full moon is out, because
Yeah,
when
well, I went when it was a new moon, and I've even got a photograph of Old Faithful erupting with the Big Dipper behind it. Shot that.
That would be a cool picture.
Yeah. I agree. That's why I shot it. Anyway, the point is that even where you do have internet service, it can be overwhelmed by the demand for it. And that's why I had to do the late night approach that I just outlined. And I might add, it's a little nerve-wracking driving around a place as big as Yellowstone and knowing that your phone can't work because you're not near one of the 4 cell towers. And what I mean nerve-wracking, what if you have a difficulty in your car? You can't call anybody. I honestly believe that Yellowstone needs to rethink that policy. They're trying to keep them hidden so that they don't mar the viewscape. And believe me, I understand the motivation behind those kinds of decisions. I just think there's a safety issue as well.
1,000 years ago, literally, my mother and I were chased by a bear in Yellowstone, and we ended up in an outhouse until somebody could come and rescue.
I'll tell you what, that outhouse, I don't know about the size of the bear, but you look at the bison in there, and I had one. I was in a cabin in the Yellowstone Village, and the bison literally walked within a foot of my rental car as the bison just casually walked through the cabin area. And, you look at that bison, it's actually kind of close to the mass of the car. I mean, they can do some real damage.
Yes, they are.
And the park rangers are very, very diligent about keeping you away from those things. But there's some places where, let me give you an example. In the valley in the north, there was a large herd of bison browsing the local vegetation, and people just pulled off the side of the road to get out and look and watch. And if one of those bison happened to walk up and nudge your car, well, you might end up with $1,000 of damage. I didn't, but I didn't stick around very long.
Bill James, it's your turn.
Yeah, John, I just have a question. We were talking about where your videos and music and YouTube are stored, but my question is, if I sign in with my Google account and access to history, do I not see all my music and my videos that I have watched in the past? I mean, that's been my experience.
Okay. I have no idea because I haven't done that. The only thing I've done is use the 4K video downloader. And one of the points that I'm not sure I said it clearly, but you can always copy anything that you bring download with 4K video downloader to other places. And another thing you can do is choose not to put it in that default place. So for instance, I could have put all of them on my NAS and as a network attached storage, for those of you who don't recognize that particular acronym. And because I put it there, I could access it from any device in my house. And it happens as long as I know the IP address, what we call the external IP address of my router, I could access it from outside the house, anywhere in the world that I have internet access. Okay. So now, one of the things, again, that I emphasized up front, for those of you who haven't done a lot of travel in rural or mountainous areas, when you do go there, you won't always have internet access. And that was the primary point of this particular presentation, is to have genuine continuous access to the videos that you want to watch. Now, why did I focus on places that have no internet access? Because my family vacationed for more than 20 years in Tucker County, West Virginia, where the internet access, to put it mildly, was very low bandwidth. I mean, they had 1.5 megabits of service on the local cell tower, and there was only 2 in the entire county. And you can imagine what happens when 2,000 or 3,000 people are trying to use that all at the same time. Now, I built in 1985, when we first got a van, I built a video system into the van because we had 3 kids and I had to have some way to mollify them while we were on the road. And it worked until they started arguing about who gets to watch what first. So these days, if I were raising kids, I'd give each of them a retired cell phone and let them watch the videos on their own with headphones connected to that retired cell phone. And that would solve that issue. But my kids are grown. The grandkids are not traveling with me yet. They're too young. And it's just another thought for those of you who have run into that circumstance.
Now, so what I was going to say then, if you have internet access and you log on to your YouTube account with your Google email address and password, you have access to whatever you've watched in either 2 places. What is called a library or history, and you can retrieve all the things that you've watched, and it stays there indefinitely as far as I know.
Okay, that works, but I'll give you another circumstance where it wouldn't work. It's again a crowd circumstance. I go to watch rocket launches at Wallops Island in Virginia on the Eastern Shore because they now launch rockets to orbit, including resupplies for the International Space Station. But in the last hour before the launch, approximately 500 people show up, and a lot of them are trying to access YouTube to watch the countdown. Now, I'll give you a little tip about that. Countdowns are usually delayed by a minute before they go onto YouTube. So if you're trying to use that to figure out when the rocket's going to launch, it doesn't work. But more to the point, if you want to watch something on YouTube of a live experience like that, and a couple hundred other people are trying to do it, from the same cell tower, it won't work. You might get 1 frame a second, or you might not get anything. Twitter's probably the best way because it's the lowest bandwidth. And yes, they do a Twitter feed as a countdown as well. So that's just, another thing. Now, frankly, we get that particular location in Wallops Island, the closest you are allowed to get to the launch site. It's about 2.1 miles, and we get a lot of people there. I suspect you'd have the same problem at the Cape if you were watching, say, the SLS and its first live crew, which I suspect they're going to launch next year, because you'll probably there'll be multiple cell towers, but there will also be a lot more people. So it's tough to say exactly in what circumstance you're going to have adequate bandwidth.
Kurt, you're on.
Yeah, just a comment, Judy. I can't chat with everyone, so I resent you that link.
I already resent it out.
Okay.
Aha. Do we have any more questions? If not, over to you, John Kennedy.
And we can tell people that if they go to the chat and go down to the 3 little, and I use the new word, kebab, that there's an option to save the chat so that they can get to that link from from Kurt at a later date. 6 months of the year over. It's hard to believe. Thank you all for being a part of our Wednesday workshops. We'll take a holiday break, as we always do for the first Wednesday of the month, and then be back next month in July with more Wednesday workshops, provided we have more volunteers to be a presenter. If you do have an idea of a topic, and we're a family, we're just sitting around the coffee table here for most of you, or your comfy chair, and just share with us some knowledge that you have about a tech topic, and we would be glad to hear it. So send your ideas and your volunteering to Judy Tallur, jtallur@apcug.org, and we'll get you set up. Yeah, she'd be overjoyed. And today, as you saw, we had 3 different ones. Sometimes we have 1, sometimes we have 2. Today we had 3. So we're not asking you to do a full 2-hour presentation. Hey, we'll take a 15, 20-minute one from you.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to thank Judy for taking care of the questions, and Bill being my right-hand man and taking care of any problems that show up, and thanking all of our presenters today, starting with Sue and Craig and Deborah. Thank you again for your Apple knowledge. And John, as always, thank you for your vast knowledge on a whole range of topics. I keep hitting my print screen and take notes and stuff that way now. You used to write it down, but then I learned. So thanks again, and we'll see you all next month.